Hi, Scott Whitley here. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to this, my live Q&A. This is the second one in the series. I'm just going to do what I did last week and play a little bit of music for you to start. So this is one of my own compositions. It's a little thing called Snake. There's like loads of different bass parts on this, so I decided to play the most bassy part. You know, it's got Christian Madden on synth on this one. Let me see. Yep, here we go. I should get a count in, and we're off. Come on, Christian. That's a bit quiet. Hey! Thank you. Yay. God, that was nerve-wracking. How are you all doing? You all right? So, who have we got in the house, Jan?
Okay, let's have a look. We've got some hellos from... 1 second. We've got Hugh in the house.
How you doing, Hugh?
Eno, I know, I think.
How you doing?
That is a name. Not I know. Eno.
Yeah, I know.
And Pete Nelson.
Pete, how you doing, Pete?
A lot of them are sort of, the names that they've got on YouTube, so I'm not quite sure. Laurent, he's here again, and Michael Hodgson.
Hi, guys.
So yeah, we've got some questions here.
All right. Yeah, let's get in.
Okie dokie. So let's have a look. This is from Michael Hodgson.
Right.
Hi guys, I once read that 32-inch scale is the shortest scale for a real bass sound. Most of mine are short scales. I'm happy with them, but what's your opinion?
Well, it's probably pretty clear that I don't quite agree with it. I don't really know what that means.
In fact, I'm not sure if he's actually talking to the rest of the people there, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it is a different sound, you know. There's kind of like, I don't know. I suppose, if I'm honest, if I jump on a long scale bass, you know, with big strings, you do get more. It's easier to get that kind of richer bell-like quality from the slap stuff. That's for sure. And I guess the short scale kind of, I don't know, sounds a little bit more middly, you know, and that's why a lot of people, you know, put those, like on Gibsons and things like that, they put the big pickup right up next to the neck, you know, to really fatten it up, and it does do that. But I just kind of, you know, just if I need to, just turn the bass up a little bit. But I've never found I've had a distinct lack of bottom end with a short scale. So no, I think and you've got, you know, some of the world's greats played short scales and got a massive tone. So yeah, short is just as good in a different way.
And we've got, I don't know if I mentioned, Steve Ford says, hi Scott, good afternoon.
Hi Steve.
I think I know who this one is. Anthony from Sway Band Crew.
Hey.
Anthony Greatbanks.
I've got the T-shirt.
Yeah. And greetings from lockdown in sunny Norwich from Rachel Connolly.
Hello there, Rachel.
Okay, let's have a look. So we've got a question from Steve Ford. I play my bass through my normal electric guitar amplifier, but the sound never sounds very good. Do you need a bass amp struck speaker to properly play bass?
So I'm kind of going to just guess here that this is just at home, like, because I think if you took a guitar amp on a gig, it wouldn't last very long. Yeah, it does sound, yeah, the need, the requirements, if you like, of a guitar amp are very different from that of a bass amp. So generally speaking, and it is generally, it's not always the case, and I'll give you some examples. Generally speaking, a bass amp is more flat response, like a PA system or a hi-fi system. So it doesn't hopefully colour the sound of the instrument too much. And whereas a guitar amp, quite honestly, most of the guitar tone that a lot of players get, it relies on the sound being coloured a lot by the amp, you know. So it kind of like smooths out the crystal, you know, those like really, you know, those. Let me get that chorus off. Sounds great, but hang on. Yeah, those high frequencies, it kind of smooths those off and gives you more of this, actually. You know. And that's meant to sound like, and that's what I was going to get back to. There are some players that like, bass players that like that coloured sound. Generally, you know, people that play like SVTs and stuff like that, it really colours the sound. And to me, an SVT is like a massive guitar amp. So it depends what you're trying to do, really. But to get a nice, fat, juicy bass sound, you need some kind of a bass amp, really. You know, the guitar amp's never going to sound as pleasing, I wouldn't have said, especially a small one. Anyway, hope that helps.
We've got our good friend Greg Harper. He's in the house.
Yo, Greg.
Us. And Pete Nelson says he's living the dream, working from home and watching you.
Fantastic.
Paul Taylor says, hi, Scott and Jan from Cumbria. He's got a question for you.
Okay.
Which has just jumped off my screen for some reason.
Go chase that question.
Yes, come back. Come back. Right. How did you end up joining Big Country, and how did you learn the songs?
So I learned. Hang on, teeth back in. I was working in Animals and Friends, which is essentially like the UK's The Animals. Although I think there's a legal thing where they have to call it Animals and Friends, but it's founder member John Steele, the drummer, and a long-time member who was with him in '65, Mickey Gallagher. They were in the band at the same time that I was in it, and it was a lot of fun. I love those guys to bits, miss them a lot. But they happen to have the same booking agent, stroke manager. He's not actually the manager, but he does more than a regular agent. Let's just say that. As Big Country, they shared the same guy, and quite honestly, I was sat in a car park in my open top car. Me and Jan were sat outside Iceland, fantastic, and I got a call from this guy, from the agent, and he was sort of saying, "Listen, do you know anyone that would be suitable for Big Country, because they're looking for a bass player?" This must have been the time, obviously, when Derek left, and I said, "Yeah, me," right. And he said, "Well, you can't. I can't put you forward because you're playing in the Animals, and you can't let those guys down." It was like, yeah, fair enough, But to cut a long story short, I really had my eye on trying to get a chance at that gig. It was like such an opportunity. So I kind of badgered him a lot about this, and eventually, and a lot of you, if there's any Big Country fans watching, you'll remember this, that probably after Derek left for about 6 months or so, they didn't have a permanent bass player. It was Big Country with special guest bass player or featured bass player, and there was myself and Matt from Procol Harum, who shared the gigs, really. He did the stuff that was more down south, and I did the stuff that was more up north. Big Country being what it is, it's a band, and people know it as that, and it just, after a while, didn't seem to fit that well with the fans, having kind of guest bass players. Nobody knew which bass player was going to turn up each week. And, I just worked really hard at learning those parts. I'll kind of like throw that bit in now. How did I work the parts out? I took at least a month out of my life to dissect those parts. Very, very hard to pick out Tony's parts a lot of the time on the records because of the production. I love the production, but the bass is so kind of melded in with the guitars and stuff. A lot of the time, I can hear hints of little chords. I know he's doing more than just playing the roots, but it's so hard sometimes just to, I don't want to guess it. I want to nail it, So what I did is I got hold of footage from YouTube of live shows where I could hear the bass a lot clearer because it wasn't like that studio production, and that helped me work them out. But where was I going with this? So anyway, I worked really hard to get that kind of tone that Tony used, and let's just say in the end that I kind of proved my worth, I guess, and I got the gig full time, which was amazing, and that was about 5 years ago now. So yeah.
We've got Lionel Chattel, I think it's called, American in Wiesbaden.
How you doing?
Supposed to be teleworking, but would rather watch you. Cheers. Oops.
I'm a bad influence.
This happens a lot now. Terrible. Hugh says he loved that tune. He did hear a bit of Victor Wooten in there. Yeah, and probably a load of mistakes. I'm going to just throw it out there. For some reason, I'm so nervous when I play that little piece at the beginning there. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's it's what it is. It's live. Did you give the name of that song? Snake?
It's called Snake, and that's from my forthcoming album, which I'm just working on. Started in 2010, and and it's going to get finished definitely this year. So, and I should mention, I'm just going to throw it out there. Greg Harper, who's online, is because I don't sight read. It's not my thing. I found out that some years ago that. And maybe he does now, but Pino doesn't read at all, and he was one of my idols and stuff. And I thought, do you know what? I learned to play by ear. Everything I ever work out, I learn it. I don't write it down even. I just learn it in here, work it out from the record, and that's it. And my good friend Greg, he's like really good at all that stuff, at like writing notation and stuff. So we're going to collaborate on a book that's going to accompany the CD, the new album, and there's going to be like transcriptions of, and I'm going to do them with him, so that they're right. Transcriptions of all the tunes on there, and there are going to be bassless backing tracks. So if you want to like play along, learn to play by ear, everything I ever worked. Hey up, that's me.
Sorry about that.
So there you go. Did I actually answer that question? Yeah, I think I did. So there you go. Look out for that. New album coming soon.
Okay, we've got Rachel Connolly says howdy.
Howdy.
And Rainier Simons, I think it is, or Rainier, but you'll have to correct us.
Send us via messenger later on. Send us a messenger file of how you pronounce your name correctly, so we can do it right.
It's E-I. I'm going for Rainier Simons.
Okay, because he's such a lovely guy, and I don't want to offend and get your name wrong. Yeah. So yeah, cool.
So, hey Scott and Jan, just curious, most studios apparently seem to like P-basses best for recordings.
Mm-hmm.
What are your experiences with using the SWB in the studio?
Right, okay, so you're absolutely right, and you probably also realise I'm like a complete rebel, I always want to do things my own way, and I'm going to feel a bit embarrassed to say this like it is, but in the studio, I mean, I've worked quite a lot over at Parr Street, which is a big studio in Liverpool, doing sessions over there. And, the last time I went, I took nothing but SWB ones. I took hundreds of them. No, I didn't. I took about 4, I think. I had one with flat wound strings on, one with round wounds, an active one, and a fretless one. So, with those, I feel like I've got pretty much any tone I want to get at my disposal. Yeah, sure. Luckily, the engineer, he's worked with me before, and he knows that I bring weird stuff, in his eyes. And we plugged the SWB one in. We went to get a sound, and he was literally jumping up and down with excitement. He said, "How the hell are you doing it? How is that?" He said, "That sounds better than any bass I've ever heard. It sounds better than a P bass." He could not believe it, and so that's why I'm saying I'm sort of embarrassed about this. But you asked the question, and that was the reaction. And again, I mean, there's been a number of times on live gigs, where a lot of engineers, and I know why they do it, they like to DI the bass straight out the instrument, and shape the tone themselves. I guess they're used to people not knowing what they're doing, maybe, I don't know. But I've been a studio engineer myself, and still do a certain amount. So I like to feed out of my amp, right? I like a full range amp with tweeters, so it's like a PA system behind me, really. And then I know what I'm feeding out of the DI is what I'm hearing on stage. And the number of engineers where, I feel embarrassed saying this, but I plugged in and played the SWB one, and they're just like, my God, that's just perfect, right? It's the literally the best bass sound I've ever heard live. I've had that a few times. So yeah, it seems to work all right. And like, apologies for sounding like a bit bigging me up there, but that was an honest answer to the question.
Greg's asking, any tips for mixing a track with more than one bass, multi-tracked like Level 42 or Victor Wooten?
So if you've got if it's like multi-tracked as in 2 basses, like that track I just played at the beginning had, let me think, it's got 1, 2, 3. It's got 4 bass tracks going on, right? It's got 2 doing the and if you listen in stereo, I've kind of tried to recreate what I did on the original recording, which is I played that part twice and panned them hard left and hard right. Now, for a start, that kind of separated them out from actually, because there is another 2 bass. No, there's more bass tracks on there. I've got a really fat low end thing on that bridge section, just playing those notes, but really subby, right? So that's just a synth, just sustained notes. So to get that line out of the way, I panned them left and right, and it kind of lightened them up a bit, and just kind of kept those separate. So that's a tip that might help somewhere. The lead thing, I played that funnily enough, with a kind of guitar amp effect on. I took a lot of the bass off. Went onto the bridge pickup, which is thinner, and if I just so I approached it very differently. I played it very Stanley Clarke, that. That sort of really digging in kind of thing. So that separated that part, and then there's a tapping part which I'm not going to try right now because I haven't played it for ages. And to make that cut through, I had to put loads of really crystal highs on the thing. I think I even used an Oral exciter to make that really sit on top of everything else. So the biggest tip really is to remove, use high pass filters and stuff on the toppier sounding basses. So there's just no sub frequency stuff going on at all, and that'll let the lower stuff just shine through. I hope that helps, Greg.
Stephen Black, I recognised it. CEO
Yo,
Pangea.
Stephen, how you doing?
Should I take the time to learn to play a 5-string or learn to speak Basque? They both seem equally useful to me.
So I think I touched on the 5-string thing last week. I mean, all power to anyone that plays 5-string and is comfortable with it. That's ace. It's just a personal thing for me. I don't get on with them that well. I've played them. And I think I said last week, and I don't think anyone bit on this one. I'd be interested to know if anyone at all thinks this. But a lot of the time, when I hear 5-string on a record, I'll hear 5-string first. I'll be like, oh, it's a 5-string. I don't know what it is. Whereas, regular 4-strings, I'll go, oh, that's a P bass. That's a Stingray. That's an alembic. That's a jazz. I hear that, whereas I don't know what it is about the 5 and the 6 thing, but they tend to sound kind of generic. Maybe it's the approach of the players that play them. They tend to be very, a lot of jazz-schooled players and stuff. And whereas this is the point, you see, with a 4-string, I can do mad stuff and, damp things like this and that, and, you know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems to me more controllable and kind of more fun to play, but that is, I've not got a downer on 5s at all. They're just not for me, so it's up to you, Stephen. If it were me, no, because that's me. I don't, is that even an answer? I hope so.
Rachel Connolly, she says Snake, really loved it.
Oh, brilliant, thank you.
There you go. Anthony Greatbanks, another one. Hi Scott Jan, love the BC story on how you got the gig. Have you always played through Trace Elliot, or was that something specific you bought for BC?
Right, so that was a mad coincidence, actually. The Trace Elliot rig, I always wanted a Trace rig, from being a kid. I actually did have a Trace Elliot head when I was about 17 or 18, just a little 150 watt head, which was a lovely thing. I was just chuffed it said Trace Elliot and had green bits on it and stuff, And I think I played it through a couple of PA cabs, a couple of HH PA cabs. But I always wanted a big, a proper big, at least 2 4x10s rig. And that rig that I actually have now, that's there's a bit of a history with me with that. I actually bought it from the said agent that works Big Country and the Animals a long time ago. And I'd bought it on the tick, I pay you a bit each week. And it was a lot of money. I don't know, it was about $3,000 or more. And I took it on the first gig, which is just like an open mic night, a jam night, and set up at soundcheck. It sounded amazing, Went for the gig, just turned it up a little bit, played the first note, and it blew up. Right, brand new rig. So, long story short, I just gave it him back, and we agreed just to leave it at that, and that was it. And I went on and used a whole bunch of stuff like Warwick gear. I had a Warwick rig with 2 4x10s with the Warwick Extreme 10.1 head. I've had about 3 or 4 different Warwick heads. I had an Ashdown rig, which wasn't for me because it didn't have the kind of attack that I like. It sounded great at what it did, but not for me. And a whole bunch of other stuff. But anyway, long story short, the trace rig just kind of sat in storage. I think he got it fixed, right? And then he maybe used it a couple of times, and it went into storage for years and years. And then I was round helping him out with something, and I spotted it. I said, "You still got that trace rig?" He said, "Yeah. Do you want it?" I was like, "Yeah." So I bought it again off of him at a much discounted price this time. It had little bits of rust on a few screws, but it was still mint, And that was literally weeks before, if not days before the big country gig came up. So it was a mad coincidence. But if I'm honest, it wasn't a Tony Butler thing why I wanted the trace rig. It was because I was a massive King fan, Mark King, and I think a lot of people love his tone from the Trace Elliott days. So, and that rig is just a monster. And I've had compact stuff, it's amazing, really expensive compact stuff. It sounds great, but I don't care what anybody says, 2 big boxes behind your 4, but certainly 2, a stack that's head high. It's crystal clear. You can hear it. You can feel it. You don't need to crank it. It never distorts. So I'll take that to jam nights, wedding gigs, anything that I ever do, because I just love that experience once it's there. It's like having a massage or something. It's brilliant. So yeah.
Richard Hetherington says, "Hi Scott, love the SWB1."
Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll be pleased to know, Scott.
Yes.
Rainier says, "Ha ha ha, you pronounce perfectly."
Ah,
that's good.
Excellent. I was looking forward to the MP3, but never mind.
Maybe I'll do that as well. Who knows? So we've got Ivor Hillman. He was PRO2 was his name, but he did say it's Ivor.
How you doing, Ivor?
He's asking, did you ever perform any big country songs with any bands before you got the gig with them?
No. Not at all. Not that I can remember. Definitely not. No reason, just never came up.
Michael Hodgson's just saying he can't do short scales without flat wounds, even has him on his Les Paul guitar.
It's all this stuff is really personal, and that's what I love about it. It's like one bass is it becomes a different animal altogether with string changes and stuff, and that's wonderful, yeah.
Matt Welch, hi Scott, going back to the beginning, did you start off playing bass and are you self-taught? I assume Mark King was an early influence. I think you mentioned that already on that one.
Yeah, Mark King was the life-changing moment. I don't think I actually touched on it. I started on drums and I played a little bit of guitar. My biggest influence from the word go, just to become a pro musician, was a chap called Tony Thorpe, right? Tony Thorpe, he's done a lot of stuff. Back in the 60s, he played with Cilla Black and Tommy Steele, Wee Willie Harris, and then his biggest sort of fame moment was he was the guitarist in the Rubettes, right? The 70s band, but that guy, I mean, it's kind of weird because he shouldn't be ashamed of the Rubettes. It's amazing, but the thing is, he's like way beyond what that band required of him. He's like a jazz guitar player and an incredibly gifted and intelligent bloke. And when I was 14 or something like that, my dad took me to watch this band. My dad got to know him before I did. But anyway, dad took me to watch this band in a pub. Can we let my son in and let me sit down? And it was a 3-piece band, a drummer called Liam Barber, a bass player called Dennis Wayne, and him, Tony Thorpe, on guitar and vocals. And they were playing like rock and roll and blues and stuff like that, and a bit of Quo stuff, but improvising loads like jazz players do. You could tell like he'd play something on the guitar and look at the drummer, and the drummer would and he'd jump on it and like answer to it and stuff. And I'd never seen anything like this in my life. And instantly, that was what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be an improvising professional musician. So that's the biggest influence. And then, like I say, I started on drums, did a little bit guitar, formed a band at school with a friend of mine, Chris Lewis, and Simon Shackleton, and got shoved on the bass. I didn't want to do it at all. Got shoved on the bass, and I thought, well, I'll do this for a little while until I get some situation where I can play the drums again. And then maybe a few weeks into that, I came home from school. My dad said, I've recorded... he said, did you see Level 42 last night live on the Prince's Trust concert? Which, funnily enough, Mark Brzezicki did a lot of, you know. I said, no. And he said, well, I recorded it for you. And he put it on, and that was it. I just, like, my jaw hit the floor. I saw this guy, like, with a coat down to his feet, you know, with his bass up here, you know. And I was like, what? You can do that with a bass, you know. And that started it all for me. And then I discovered guys like Stanley Clarke and people like that, you know. And yeah, so I've always been interested in that side of bass playing.
We've got a guy, Dale G. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the live cast. He said he'll check it out later, but he did have a question.
Yeah?
He says, I play acoustic guitar, finger picking mostly, but have recently taken up the bass. That was in November 2019.
Okay.
My nails click the strings, so I've started to wear a musician's glove, which does help. Have you heard of any other solutions? I have... do that. I've got another... There's another question after that.
Okay. So first thing is, have I heard of any other solutions? I haven't even heard of that one. That's the funny thing. I don't even know what a musician's glove is.
Google.
It sounds very interesting. Apart from that other Scott, you know, Scott Devine? Scott Devine, isn't it? He wears a glove, but I think that's for different reasons. I mean, the obvious thing when I heard it was like, well, cut your nails, but that must have been done already. So the only thing I will say is I've seen a lot of players. Let me see if I can just zoom in on my hand here. Right. When I play, not saying this is the right way to do it, it's my way, but I kind of rake largely across. So let me get a better angle on that. Right, so I'm not picking. My hands look really dirty. I've been doing digging in the garden. I can't believe that. So, yeah. So I've seen players kind of pick upwards and away from the bass like this. And when you do that, there is more of a risk. You're going to get that nail noise. Now, to me, when you do this, you get a fatter sound. Can you hear the difference? It's huge. As opposed to... Now, that's got its place. It's very delicate and you know, it's very articulate. Articulate? Is that right? I don't know. You know what I mean? You can articulate notes very clearly doing that, whereas this is a lot fatter and rounder. But doing that, like I say, to me, it gets the nail further and further and further out of the problem area. So that would be my advice on that.
He does go on to say, I have a viola bass, which has a nice deep tone. Can you recommend strings, please? I believe the ones it came with are D'Addario rounds.
It's the best thing I could do there is point you, if you go to my Short Scale Bass website, shortscalebass.co.uk, there's an article I wrote on there when I had some time on my hands called String Choice, and I think that might shed some light on that. I think that might be because it's a whole video or whatever in itself is that actually. I should do one actually on string choice. Yeah, but I hope that helps you.
We've got a question from Laurent. Do you plan to demonstrate the SY300 Boss pedal in a vlog?
Yes, I do. So the thing is, if you didn't know already, because I posted it on some of my social media, there's this gentleman that's asked this question. He unbelievably kindly bought me a Boss SY300, which is...
Is that bit behind you?
It's this fellow. It's that. Right, which is a synth pedal. And it's just an incredible thing. From the videos and things I've watched. I did an unboxing video of it last night. It's amazing. And I can't wait to try it. The truth is, this week is unbelievably stressful. We did Jan's live Q&A this morning. We're doing mine now. And literally been up since 7 o'clock getting everything ready for this. It doesn't look like it. It's just me sat here. But, you know, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. I've got tracks to prepare for the live gig on Saturday. We've got to rehearse the live gig on Saturday. It's like, you know, just on the right side of You know what I mean? It's pretty stressful. So Sunday's going to just be like a big sigh of relief. We're loving doing all this, but it's fairly full on, I got to say. So I'm setting aside like probably Monday as just having a bit of fun with that pedal, and then once I get a little bit into it, I will definitely do some videos with it. Yeah, and it will feature definitely on the new album as well. So thanks so much.
This ties in nicely, actually, with another question. Richard Hetherington.
Okay.
If you could only pick one pedal to use with your SWB1, what would that be? Are you up to date on that blue one yet or not?
Right, okay. No, if it was only one pedal, right, I'm pretty sure it would be the one I talked about last week, which is the Zoom B3. If it's only one pedal, because it kind of just... It does a whole bunch of stuff. I can use it in my lessons in a certain way, and this is another thing altogether. This is like an amazing additional toy. Whereas the B3 is like a sort of Swiss Army knife of bass stuff. Effects and drum patterns and things like that. Or the other one is the B1ON, which is the little baby one. I use that for my lessons. I'm using that now. I'm getting all those tones you heard out of that. So yeah, just one of the family of Boss pedals, Zoom pedals. There, yeah.
You may not know this. It's just something that Stephen Black's saying, that Music Man's making a short scale 5-string now.
You see, they're all getting on it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, they're all copycats.
Yeah. Pied Piper syndrome. Okay, back to Laurent again. Another question. According to you, what is best for fretless bass, flat wound or round wound strings?
So it's the ongoing debate, isn't it? Like there's the old don't use rounds, they eat the fingerboard up thing, and then some people say right. So my thing has always been round wounds, right? Jaco Pastorius is for me, is what fretless is all about. Tone wise, playing the whole thing, right? And he used rotor sound round wound strings. So that's what I use. Now I think he kind of glorified it. Was like one of those kind of cool things. Yeah, man, it was eating the fingerboard up and stuff. Thing is, I've had loads of. Obviously, I don't play exclusively fretless, so I can't comment 100% correct with this. But when I have had fretless basses with round wounds on, all they do for me, even playing it a lot over a long number of years, is make a few little lines on the fingerboard. I've never seen it come off like sawdust and stuff, you know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with using rounds even on an unfinished board. Right now, there will be guys out there who just probably play like 9 hours a day, and maybe they do eat it up. So that's the first thing. So that's it. I just like the sound of rounds. They've got so much more top end and stuff going on. Now, having said that, in recent times, I've picked up a few basses with flats on, and I've always assumed, right, because I've never done it, I always assumed that flats would just sound a bit deader, a bit more double bass like. You won't get as much of that moire, that swell. But it's not necessarily the case. So I am planning at some point to experiment a little bit more with flats on fretless. But from my experience so far, I've always used round wounds. So yeah.
Matthew Spencer, PRS SE basses,
Oof.
Yay or nay?
You can't go wrong with it, can you? I wouldn't have thought. I mean, it's. Are they? I'm assuming. Are they like a sort of slightly more budget one? I'm not like au fait with them, but if it's PRS and there's some kind of quality control on it, I assume it'll be good. But I can't really comment that. I've never tried one, so. But I wouldn't be scared of ordering one up and going with it. Not with PRS on the headstock.
Richard Hetherington's been working on your Slap Basics video, which he says is great.
Oh, thanks.
However, he doesn't seem to get as good a tone from the E as he does with A.
Okay.
Any tips other than don't give up your day job?
So it can be a bunch of things. The first thing I would ask is, are the strings new? You can get. Has he tried changing them? Have you tried changing them? I'm talking to you, aren't I? Sorry. I don't need to speak through Jan.
I was going to say, don't ask me. I don't know if he's changed them.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm new to this. obviously the first thing is I'm asking, have you changed the string? So if you have, then that's that eliminated. You do get bad strings, you know. I've opened sets of you know, any make really, and put, you know, the strings on, and then the E strings, because it's got several layers of winding on it, depending on the manufacturer. There's more sort of error, margin for error in terms of the winding slipping and stuff, right? So I've put E strings on, brand new, and gone to hit a note, and you expect it to be really bell-like and clear, and it's just like a piece of string, you know, like or wool. And sometimes, if you kind of like leave it wound here, if you've got that kind of bass where you've got the quick release, you can put the ball on this way. Then you can do this, where you basically leave it there and twist the ball. You can try it both ways, clockwise, right? And until there's some kind of tension, like if you let it go, it'd spin back round, and try and lock that in and tighten the string up then. And sometimes that fixes it. And if you've got a bass where you have to thread it through this way, you do it the opposite way. You twist the string at this end, and then while it's kind of under tension, put it into the peg and tune it up. And sometimes that just kind of tightens everything up and makes the string sound okay again, so you don't have to throw it away. Aside from that, it could be something about the bass. I've had basses that the E string just doesn't ring on, you know. So it's a little bit hard to completely pinpoint it, but there are a few clues, few ideas you could try.
Lionel Chattel says, looks like there's a delay on the broadcast. Is that? I think that's usual, is it, on the YouTube live streaming?
Yeah, but does he mean?
Doesn't.
Do you mean I'm not in sync? Do you mean the voice to the video? Is that it? We'll have to wait for him to come back on that one.
Yeah.
If anyone can concur on that one, are we talking about lip sync? We'll see. Okay.
Not sure, but Andy T, he just had to share that a deer just ran by outside.
Hey, that's all right,
isn't
it?
Had to share it, and how nice is that?
It is. It's lovely, yeah.
Okay. So Lionel Chattel, again, who said that about the delays, says, what is your recommendation for getting into using a DAW to start recording and writing? What initial equipment do you suggest?
Okay, I'm going to come clean on this. I don't think I'm going to get nicked for this. But I started way back in the early days of like one of the first, was it Cubase VST or something? One of the first versions where you could record into it, and it wasn't just MIDI. And I didn't really realise what I downloaded basically a cracked copy of it. I'm going to be honest. This was back in, the 90s or something. And I thought, what is this thing? You know, and I installed it. I knew it was some kind of music thing. And, you know, and wait a minute, you can record on this. Now, at that time, I was working in a small studio as an engineer. We were working on 16-track, was it? No, 24-track, actually, tape. And I was like, I can't believe the power I've got in it. It had, like, reverbs built in and stuff. So this is Cubase early on. I made a record with my brother-in-law, listen to me, made a recording with my brother-in-law of one of his songs, and I took it into the studio. It was a friend of mine, Mick Hanley, actually, took it into the studio and said, hey, I did this in the bedroom, like, played it him, and he was like, kind of almost like, that sounds better than anything we've ever done here, you know, in the studio. And so straight away he bought Cubase, you know, and built a PC, and that was that. So I kind of like, you know, I did a lot on that dodgy version. I was really, really, really skint back in those days, you know. And I'm not saying this is right. I'm coming clean, but eventually I thought I need to buy it. I don't want to do this. I want, you know. So I looked at the price of Cubase, and I'd love to buy Cubase, but with everything else I had to buy at the time, you know, interface, I couldn't afford it. So although I love it, it's my favourite DAW, I use Reaper now, because you can try it for ages without worrying, without, you know, feeling bad. And then when you're ready to pay for it, it's nowhere near the amount of the other ones, and it's great. You know, it's not as intuitive to use. So that's Reaper, by the way. You can go and download it straight away for free. But yeah, that was a long recommendation, wasn't it? It was a confession, wasn't it, really?
They say women can talk. Laurent, is one of your boys aspiring to become a pro musician?
No. And funny enough, I've never pushed them at all in that direction. Now, one of my lads particularly is very musically gifted. That's my son Ben. I'm not singling him out as, but he just is, and he's the most interested in playing music, and he does a lot of it. He's a mechanic by trade, so he's also a petrol head. But he comes home from work and he'll pick up an acoustic guitar or a violin or a piano, or he'll go on Fruity Loops. He's so gifted musically, and he just completely does it to relax. And just therapeutic for him. He doesn't even want to perform in front of people. And I really love that in him. And the reason I've never pushed them to be pro musicians is that it's such a hard career choice. It really is. It can be really, really rewarding at times, but it's just so hard. It's so hard. There is no set thing. You don't. It's not like a lot of other careers where you go to uni and then you do this and you do that and then, hey, I'm on top of the pops. It doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean, don't you? It's there is no set path, and that's why I do so much, diverse stuff like this, the Q&A session. I do sessions. I do a bit of teaching. I do a bit of photography. And I kind of like try to utilize all my different skills to keep the wolf from the door, but it's not an easy career at all. So there's something enviable in a way about someone who just does it for enjoyment. Yeah.
It's such a shame. I think you could bring a lot of pleasure to a lot of people, couldn't you? With that
he could.
music?
I'll tell you
He's
what.
so talented.
Yeah, we're going to record an album, I think, and I'm hoping he gets involved with that. So even if he's just like this mysterious figure that never appears, yeah.
Could you give your quick impressions attending a NAMM show? And that is.
I thought I was going to have to do actual impressions then. I'm a variety act. Check me out.
That is, as in atmosphere and being there to represent Chowney.
NAMM was just amazing to go to NAMM. It was a bit of an anticlimax in some ways. You kind of think, I want to go to NAMM and it's just going to be amazing, and it's just a really big guitar show. It is amazing. I mean. But the thing is, for me, because like I was talking about last week, I just play these now, SWB ones. That's going to change a little bit, actually. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I don't kind of lust after different bass guitars, so I can just kind of walk past them and go, yeah, it's all right, Whereas in the past, I'd have been picking everything up and, oh, wow, one day I can own one of these, and that's kind of gone. So that was a funny thing. It's really, really cool. But at the end of the day, it is just a massive guitar show. So you've been to one guitar show. You've been to them all. It's cool though. It is cool. But it's a lot of work to get here from the UK. I don't know. That's probably about it with them, I think.
Okay. What advice would you give to a young musician who has decided to take up a career in music in 2020? I mean, this is from Laurent again. I mean, is it, as I think, much more difficult than in the past, or is it as difficult?
I'd say it's like this. When I started playing and decided I was going to be pro, it had already got more difficult. Now, there are millions of different avenues you can go down. The one I decided to go down from an early age was to go out, and I think this is a great recommendation still, and a lot of people turn their nose up at this, but this is what I would recommend people do if they want to make a living from it. It's not right. This is not the right answer. This is just my answer, right? Is I would get in a band, going out, doing covers in pubs and clubs, and just working, like if you can, 2, 3, 4 nights a week if you can. Just going out, learning songs that other people have written, which is just making you do stuff on the instrument all the time. You're learning and learning and learning. And all that music that you learn, you're doing someone else's material. But if you get into improvising, you can make that material your own. So just use it as as like a bed for or a vehicle just to get your chops together and another thing that happens when you're doing that is you're becoming a performer. You're becoming good at being on stage and feeling confident playing in front of people and stuff, right? So it just hones your craft so much, and you're making some money from it as well immediately, right? You know, you might not be making fortunes, but you're making something. And if you're at college or whatever, you know, it's going to make a big difference. So that's a thing, and a lot of people just don't. I'm not doing covers. I'm not doing that, you know. And other people do that instead. They only write their own stuff and only play their own stuff, and that's it. And just hope that one day they get famous. And that's an amazing dedication to doing that. You know, as something I've never had. You know, I've just wanted to be a player. I just want to play bass. I don't write that much. So, and to me, if I'm playing a song, it doesn't matter whether the singer in the band I'm playing in wrote it, or Paul McCartney wrote it. It's still not my song, you know what I mean? So covers, it's not really a thing to me. So that would be a recommendation. The other thing I would say, man, there's this whole new uprising, isn't there, of musicians on YouTube. They're almost like YouTube musicians, you know. They're the kind of guys that you couldn't, on gals, you wouldn't really imagine putting, you know, like on a soul gig or something, you know, or like we're going to go out and do some blues, you know. But they're doing stuff that I could never dream of doing. It's just amazing to behold, you know. It's a new thing. And so you can go down that route, you know, and just sit in your bedroom and just actually literally play stuff, put it out there, and be able to reach an audience. But I think overall that is something you should do anyway, actually, whether you're going down that kind of, you know, I'm trying to think of. Oh, I can't think of any particular names I was going to call on, but these kind of, like I say, super, you know, YouTube phenomenon bass players, you know, that you could try and do that, but that's an awfully difficult thing to do. But just generally, I would get out gigging, write your own stuff, and that's what I always plan to do. Is get out gigging in a band, try and get in like an ex-name band or a name band from the past, which I'm doing, and I've done that a lot. And then use that as a springboard to, like, in the week, if you like, when you're not gigging, you know, write and record your own stuff. So yeah, and definitely in this day and age, I think you should just like start a YouTube channel and just start putting stuff out, whatever it is, you know. Someone's gonna like it, you know. So yeah, I felt a bit waffly there, but I think I answered that question.
Laurent is also asking, what's the best ever show that you've performed?
Best ever show that I performed. I can't really think. I've done some pretty cool stuff. I really enjoyed doing Daryl's house in the States. Yeah, it's not the biggest gig I've ever done by a long stretch, but just the vibe in there and the fact that, you know, that Big Country were in the States again, and people who'd never seen him before in their live, you know, were there, and that was pretty cool. I think that stands out.
And have you got any tips on how to record the bass correctly, as in software and settings? You know, I actually did a video on this at some point. I'll put a link in the description below. That's probably the best thing to do, rather than kind of waffle on. Yeah, I'll do that afterwards. I'll put it in the comments when we're finished. Yeah. Stephen Holmes is asking, who are your influences?
Influences are, there may be more, but like John Entwistle, Billy Sheehan, Mark King. These are bass players, by the way, obviously. Stanley Clarke. Pino Palladino in his Fretless era, Jaco Pastorius, Victor Wooten, what's he called now? My memory's gone today. Not Jeff Lynne, although he's cool. It'll come to me, but those kind of guys. And also, I'm a big fan of female vocalists. I love, you know, a lot of like from Diana Krall, Christina Aguilera, Julie London, you know, I like that stuff a lot, you know, so that influences what I do as well. Yeah, Beatles, just as a band, massive influence, loads, yeah.
I know that this is a bit further down the line now, so from when I mentioned it earlier, but we've got people saying that the delay, there's no lag, there's no delay, so it's all perfect.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's good to know.
Right, good.
Mark Fowler's asking, when will you finish reviewing the Zoom B2 multiple bass effects pedal?
Was it the Zoom B2 or the Zoom B1? It must be the...
He's saying B2 in his question.
I think he must mean the B10N. Yeah, apologies for that. I lost my pedal. I actually lost it. I thought I'd left it in Ireland. And I was really late to that party. They're actually discontinued now. So, if, when I get the time, I will still do a video on it. I'm going to make a video on the newer one as well. But, yeah, apologies for that. I lost the damn thing and couldn't make any videos. So, yeah. I found it again. Yeah.
Sorry, just having a look at these.
It was under the seat in the van. Really was.
Where? Oh, let's have a look. Sorry about this, Scott.
It's all right.
Okay, actually, we're not far off an hour here, so
Really?
maybe this is last question for this one, perhaps. Okay. Helmut Heinisch.
How you doing, Helmut?
From Vienna. He says he loves your videos, playing, and your beautiful signature bass. Could you give him a hint on how to create the fat P-bunk? P-bunk?
I like that. It's a new genre.
Yeah, a fat P-funk bass tone. Bootsy et al. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I think... Let's see what I've got here. So this... I think this is pretty fat. I mean, let me turn the mics off for a minute so you don't get that. I don't know. Is that the kind of thing you're on about? If it is, send your answers on a postcard. No, if it is, that what I'm doing there is using quite a bit of compression. I'm using an amp simulator. So this is all in the little Zoom B1 actually. I mean, basically, let me not make it specific to that unit. It's like compression. In some ways, like big fat strings, kind of, I suppose, talking that like fat 70s thing, they probably help. These are relatively heavy. Like compression, using an amp. I never used to use any kind of amp simulation or anything like that. I used to love DI'd sounds, but I've grown to realise that that's not an obvious amp sound, is it really? Hang on. It's still got like some high end about it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, compression. There's not actually, to be fair, there's not a lot of like kind of technology going on with that tone. It is just an amp and a bass and a bit of growl, and a bit of compression to help you just fatten it up. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's 3:00. I don't know whether you're finishing off with a tune or not. I don't know what you had planned.
Yeah, I was gonna have a go at just playing a tune to finish off. I think it kind of rounds it off nicely.
It's a shame because there's quite a lot more questions that we've not been able to get through. But perhaps next week they can come online and ask again.
Absolutely, and I'll try and dive in. Like I say, I've had an incredibly busy week, but I will try and dive into some of the comments and see if I can answer some after the fact. I'm going to have a go at playing a big country song to finish. Now, that sounds weird. Have a go. I mean, I haven't actually played this way in, is it 6 weeks we've been in this bass cabin now?
Is it not about 3 years?
And again, like last time, you'll hear that it's a very different tone to the tone I normally get. This is like my kind of like... Or this in... That's kind of like my signature tone, and this is the kind of thing I'm going for the big country thing, which is very kind of different tone. So hope you enjoy this. Thanks so much for everyone that's dropped by. Hope to see you next week. Don't forget, this Saturday, 2nd of May, 9 p.m. UK time, we're doing a gig from in here, me and Jan, and we're doing it. It's going to be like a big sound. We're using backing tracks with horns on and stuff, and it's going to be good fun. It's going to be a big party. 9 p.m. on Saturday night. So I'm going to leave you with this. I need a better media player than this. I really do.
Don't forget to mention though, Scott. We'd love to see the videos from the live stream gig. We want people dancing along to it in their own homes, in the safety of their own homes. So do record videos of yourself dancing along to the music and send them in.
Send them in, yeah. Or play your bass along to it and send that in. That'd be cool. All right, guys. Thanks again. See you next week. Hope you enjoy this. Hope I can play it right as well. That'd be even better. Never done that before. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. And when this ends, I'll see you next week. Cheers. Thanks a lot. See you next time. Cheers.